bass stuff, and I kind of just wanted to really talk about position and posture. It's really three things that's going to really help you to make your bass lines more fluid. And I'm not talking about theory. I'm not talking about even knowledge base at this point. It's just connection to the instrument, physical connection. There's several things I notice with students as we're playing that kind of prevent them from being proficient at moving around on the device. And one of that is the attachment of the hand, the elbow, and the fingertips. Really, when you break it down, those three things, fingers, thumb, elbow, can be preventative for how you play your instrument. It could be the difference between somebody playing really fluid, amazing lines to somebody chunking their way through the neck. The first thing I want to bring up is what I call the baseball bat grip. I always call it the baseball bat grip because what's happening is people wrap their hand around and use their thumb to kind of move around. So they're using the flat of their hand as a connection point to the back of the neck. Whenever you use a flat surface like that, you're creating friction. Friction is always going to slow us down. It's like brake pads. The more you press on it, the hotter it gets, the slower it moves. So what we want to do is we want to create less touch points on the neck. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your thumb and I want you to place your thumb directly in the back of the neck. This also creates a space. So the palm should never really make physical contact with the fingerboard or the neck. It just doesn't. Take a look at that. So my thumb comes in, it works like a hinge. So it allows me to reach around, especially if you're playing a multi-string instrument and you need to reach across. If you're playing like something like some 10-string instrument, there's no way that you can flat the neck and make it across. Or even if you're playing a single cut. A single cut will prevent you from really reaching over if you're trying to flat that back of your hand against the neck. So that first touch point is the thumb. Try to stay towards the tip of the thumb, place it in the neck, pivot out. That pivot point is going to allow you to reach across and create fluid lines. The second thing I want to talk about is the fingertips. Remember when you were a kid and your drum on the table? You wouldn't go like this, flat fingers in drum. You'd always kind of curve your fingers. We'd curve them so that we had a really good surface point to smack, sorry, stumbling over my words, to smack the desk or the table to create a sound. If I go flat, I end up having more surface, the sound isn't as sharp. By curving my fingertips, I end up with a better touch point. And what I want that touch point to be is right behind the fret. I don't want to play in between the two frets, because if I play in between the two frets, I'm going to end up with fret noise, finger noise, some other stuff as I slide around. So I want to be right behind the fret. So as I move up or down the neck, I want to have one finger, or any finger, behind the fret, almost on it. If you look, it's almost on. I always have questions, people are like, do you play a lot of fretless bass? I'm like, well, I did, I still do, but the time that I played fretless, you played right on the note. And by playing on the fret, you're right on the note, because that is actually where the note is coming from, right? So we have our touch point of our thumb and our fingertip over here where we're making that contact point. So the next thing we want to talk about is the elbow. So that's another hang up that we run into. I see that a lot with my beginners, is that they're not sure what to do with the elbow. Well, the elbow needs to be free and clear. And how do we make the elbow free and clear to be that hinge as we move up the neck? Because it's a whole shoulder elbow thing that's happening. The first thing you want to do is you don't want the bass flat across your chest. You'll see people that are like this playing with a flat. You end up baseball gripping it. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the bass is almost riding on our hip. So across the body to the side. So we end up with it at a side angle with the bass actually pointing slightly up towards our face, because the headstock is up towards our head. It's not out here, it's not down here, it's not up here, it's here. At this angle, this is going to give you a lot more connection points. It's going to allow you to easily move. Now this is where I'm getting in with the elbow, is that when you play like this, the elbow gets stuck in the ribs. And what we want to do is we want to be able to move from high to low. And the trick with that is to move the bass off to the side, so it's actually at an angle. So if I were to point my arm away from my body at my shoulder, the same line, my arm would be pointing at noon if there were clock hands. My my neck would be pointing at 1 or almost 2 o'clock, so that I have a gap between my shoulder and the fingerboard and the neck. So as I move across, I can actually easily pivot and shift. It's almost like a windshield wiper as it moves up. As I move across, it makes it really simple to get in there. It makes it really easy. It makes it easy for me to move across the neck. So whether I'm playing really low notes or really high notes, it's not a big transition. I'm not fighting the neck. So remember those three things: elbow, thumb, fingertips. Elbow, thumb, fingertips. Those are going to be your touch points for the bass. Less friction is more important, so don't palm the neck. Don't baseball grip it. Try to get that space in there. Give yourself a spacer. That's going to give you longevity for your fingers and your knuckles as well. So having that ability to move around, keeping it kind of off to the right hip if you're playing traditionally or if you're a lefty, you'd have it on your right hip, but we're going to kind of move it either way. So we want to be able to have it over here. And remember, the bass is on a strap for a reason. So as we move, the bass shifts. It's kind of like the end pin on an upright. It doesn't stay in one position. We have to move it to be able to reach upper or lower registers. Same thing for the strap. The strap works like our end pin. So as we move across, we can adjust and get that finger where we need to go. So guys, I know I haven't done a video in a little while on bass stuff. I've been putting up videos of the band because that's been kind of my focus. But what I do have is, I actually have a Phil Jones. This is the BP200. This little mighty powerhouse is a 200-watt amp that fits into a gig bag very easily. I'm going to be doing a review on this for Bass Musician Magazine shortly, so definitely check out Bass Musician Magazine and look for this. I do love tube amps, but if you're like me, you know that sometimes tube amps have a tendency of crapping out at the gig, because that does happen. I like to keep something like this in my bag just in case. Sometimes it saved my skin on many occasions. I always keep a PJB in my car just in case. If I have a gig or a recording that I'm using a tube amp and I need something really fast, I throw that guy right in there. So the review is coming to Bass Musician Magazine. But remember, Steve the Bass Guy, you're on my channel. Smash and subscribe right now. Make sure that you stay with me because I'm going to give you some updates. I have a new camera with a new connection for the microphone that goes right in, which is great. So stay with me. Trust me, it's going to be getting good. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out. Smash and subscribe. Be well. Peace, love, and low notes.